Welcome to Eyes Closed. This experience is here to take you each week into the energy world and let you feel it, sense it, and experience it for yourself. My name is Capucine. I'm a Reiki master teacher, and I'm teaching energy and delivering energy sessions each week in my premium content. I also teach Reiki each month. All the informations are down in the show notes. Thank you for joining me this week. And trust within where you will be going is a new dimension of yours. And I'm excited to be the one taking you there. Thank you. Today we welcome Katrina Stratford, also known as the Jove Goddess. And it's something to behold. Her energy is truth and the research of truth. I'm so happy and lucky to welcome Katrina here. Katrina is a cartomancer. She reads tarot, does energy healing, and also is a sidereal astrologer. Her online presence has been so deeply healing for me, and I really, really recommend you to check her work, check her videos on YouTube, to check her tweets. I see it as smashing borders and creating a vaster land to discover from. Have a wonderful day. Sit back, enjoy. Welcome to Eyes Closed, Katrina. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your presence, your energy, and all the wisdom that we're going to receive from you today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited. It's been a long time in the coming.
Yes. I want to ask you first question. How did it start for you? How did you wake up? How did you become conscious and get out of the matrix?
Yeah, so at the end of 2017, I moved to Puerto Rico kind of like on a whim with my boyfriend at the time. And we ended up being there literally a week before Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico. So if you're not familiar, it like destroyed the whole island. It was terrible. They lost power. None of like the ATM machines were working, which is like, for someone coming from the US, that's something that we would never even think about, to like not be able to use the ATM. So we finally ended up leaving Puerto Rico, but I literally lost like my savings, my job, me and my boyfriend ended up breaking up. We were together for like 3 years prior to that. So it was literally like starting from ground zero, and I had to move in with my dad. So I moved in with my dad, and literally this was at the end of 2017. So that whole year of 2018, I literally left the house probably a maximum of 30 times. I was like in the house, just kind of hermiting. My dad was like worried because he's like, "Are you depressed? Are you okay? Do we need to go see a therapist?" But I wouldn't even say that I was depressed. I was just in the state of like deep rest almost, where I just needed to like just be. So during that time, while I was kind of hermiting myself, this is kind of embarrassing, but I looked online, and I'm a Sagittarius sun. So I like Googled, I was like, what's the best sign for Sagittarius to date? Because I'm like getting over my ex-boyfriend, and I'm like, okay, maybe I can start dating now. So I look, what's the best sign? And I see something about a Sagittarius moon and a Sagittarius Venus and all of these different things. So I'm like, what is this? So then I obviously found out that natal charts existed, and then I went down this rabbit hole for like probably 3 weeks straight. I didn't even leave my room or eat or anything. I'm just like astrology, research everything. And during that time, one day I get a package. My dad's like, "You have a package?" So I'm like, "What is this?" And I open it, and it's a tarot deck. It's actually this deck right here, the Morgan Greer tarot deck, my first deck. And I was like, how did this even get here? Like, where did this even come from? And of course I had ordered it from Amazon, but I had even to this day, I have no recollection of buying it. It's like I woke up in the middle of my sleep, and my higher self was like, order this, hurry up. So that was the beginning of my journey. And, you know, a year later, tons of research and practice and stuff later, here we are.
I love it. Thank you so much. Oh, that's so good. Oh God, thank you. So where are you going now with consciousness? Can you tell us about what you're doing and what you would like to study later on, and where you're going?
Yeah, so I actually over the past, I'd say like 3 or 4 months, have been kind of being led on this spiritual maze, I'd probably call it, where I'm like learning about things, but I can't fully put it together. It's like I'm not getting all of the information. So then I'm like, what is this for? Like, why are you showing me this? Why am I learning about these things? And I get stuck. And then something else comes up. So I actually, kind of some of the things I've been studying have been the Kabbalah and Gematria, and human design is one of the things that kind of popped up for me, and the Akashic records have been kind of brought into my attention. So all of these things, I've been like halfway there with it and not able to pull it all together. And actually last week, I ended up having a consultation with another spiritual worker, and I cannot remember his name, and I feel so bad because I'd love to give him a shout out. He was amazing, but he was like, I can tell you about your soul plan. And there's a book that goes along with the soul plan, and it goes along with, it basically, long story short, you get kind of your name, and your name reduces to numbers with numerology, and it goes around the Star of David. And this system that he has kind of tells you like the challenges that you're working with and your talents and things. But when I was talking to him, I thought we were just going to talk about this, and I'm like, oh, it's cool. And I start talking to him, and he starts bringing in Gematria, and he starts bringing in the Kabbalah, and he starts bringing in human design. And I'm like, oh, so you wanted to lead me to this person, and he's kind of tying everything together for me right now. So I have some more sessions with him to kind of bring it all together, but that's kind of where I'm going right now, to this space of kind of bringing everything together, which is a lot of what my practice is about, is like blending modalities and making everything make sense together rather than being solely a tarot reader or solely an astrologer. So I'm really excited.
What are your offerings? Do you want to tell us about what people can seek you out for?
Yeah, definitely. So I offer cartomancy services, which is card-based divination. Everything's on my website, jovegoddess.com/Katrina. And the cartomancy offerings will kind of range between tarot, oracle, and Lenormand. I also offer astrology readings. You can get a full chart reading. This is your sidereal whole sign chart. That's what I work with. But you can also get just a career reading or just a marriage consultation if you're curious about what your spouse will be like in the future. I also offer distance healing sessions where I combine the Reiki that you taught me as well as some clairvoyant healing techniques that I have learned in psychic school. So we do those healings. Every healing comes with kind of a mini reading on the front side, obviously, to see kind of what we're healing. But we can just kind of remove anything that doesn't belong there, doesn't need to be there. And then I offer fusion services, which the fusion services are just literally like fusing together some of these modalities that I just talked about. So you can get like a year ahead tarot and astrology reading, or you can get a reading and healing session, kind of merging those things together.
So good. I'm so happy about this. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. What I love about the way that you see things is that you transform it, and you are a teacher. You are sharing with us your knowledge. So I want to ask you about what are you teaching, and how has, being a teacher transformed
Yeah,
you yourself?
yeah, definitely. So currently I'm teaching a tarot course and an astrology course. They're both kind of like beginner intermediate courses. Teaching obviously with tarot, learning how to read the entire deck, and then with astrology, I learn, study, and practice sidereal astrology. So teaching some of the techniques that I have in that area as well, basically teaching people how to read their chart, like the basics of how you can read your own chart. Teaching for me has actually come really easily. I feel like I've always, whatever I've been doing, even kind of when I wasn't into spiritual topics, I've always been kind of a teacher. I worked in restaurants for 10 years and I was a trainer, and then I became a manager that was in charge of the teachers in the restaurant. So it was always kind of like that aspect being brought to me of like, oh, I know something, let me share it with other people. So translating that to what I'm doing now, I feel like it came really natural. I feel like it was just like people were coming to me for readings over and over and over again. And at a certain point I was like, okay, no, I'm going to teach you how to do it yourself, so you don't have to keep paying me every month or every couple of months to give you a reading, or, you know, just for the smallest things that people sometimes need. I wanted to give people that ability to be self-sufficient.
Thank you. And your business name is called the Jove Goddess, which is your way of sharing with us, like a way that we could embody the archetype. And your phrase on your website saying like where spirituality meets practicality. Can you tell us about this objective of yours, this goal, you know, to again teach us how to do it?
Yeah, definitely. So when I started, I found probably the thing that put me off the most about the spiritual community, and not to like say that I'm, you know, above it or anything like that, but just something that kind of rubbed me the wrong way was that everyone was kind of like, oh, you're reading tarot now? Well, I'm sure that you stopped eating meat and you stopped drinking alcohol and you stopped going out with your friends. And it's like this whole kind of like lifestyle around spirituality that everyone just assumes that you're a part of. But I still eat meat and I still drink alcohol and I still go out with my friends, even to this day. So, and I think that's okay. For me, that feels right. And sometimes I don't drink alcohol because it doesn't feel right. And sometimes I'll go vegetarian for a bit. But the part of it with me that made me want to really make this kind of like the model for my business was seeing other people feeling that same way, and seeing other people that were like, oh, well, I can't learn tarot because I don't want to meditate for 3 hours a day. Or, you know, I'm not a spiritual person because I don't, you know, because I still eat meat, or whatever the case is. I wanted to let people know that there is kind of a middle ground between those things, and it's up to you essentially to find where you kind of lie on that spectrum.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for that. It takes us out of the victim mentality of, oh no, I can't do it. Or, oh no, you're the gifted one. I can't do
Exactly.
those things. And also, you know, you're spiritual bypassing if you're just seeing someone for like 30 minutes. You're not doing the search. And the search is how you recognize yourself, do your shadow integration, and all of those things when you're actually touching a tarot card and you're like, oh yeah, the hermit. I've been a hermit for a while. Yeah, this happened. I love this. Thank you so much. Thank you
Exactly.
for the way you do things.
Of course. Yeah.
So, how do you feel now with consciousness? What is your relationship with the idea of source, and how do you, you know, understand your life in this world?
So I'm still figuring it out every day. We all are. But I would say, regarding my connection with source, I feel that it's a part of me. I almost feel like it's kind of everything, right? There is a part of source that is fully encompassed within me, and there's a part of source that I'm just a small speck of. So, you know, through, and especially like in the beginning of my spiritual journey, I was very like, the first thing that people get kind of attracted to when they start their spiritual journey is usually the law of attraction or something similar to that. So I was very much into that for a while. And then I was kind of confused because I was like, I've been visualizing myself being a millionaire for a week now and I still don't have any money. So what's happening here? And I came to this point where I realized that there are other spiritual laws besides the law of attraction. There's kind of this whole system that's working together. And just that realization that there's a law of attraction, but there's also the law of karma, there's also the law of cause and effect, and there's the law of correspondence, and there's all of these things, kind of made me realize that I don't think I'll ever fully understand source. I don't think any of us will. I think it's so kind of above us, and we're just a very small piece of it, trying to kind of play our part in it, but also that my very small part in it means so much to the entire system, right? Like if I were to never get that tarot deck and never, I've taught so many people how to read tarot, I've done so many readings for other people, just imagining, even though I'm such a small part of it, that impact really helps me understand that source is kind of this large system that we're a part of, but also that we're so important within it, even though we're so small.
You have impacted so many lives, mine first, but like I feel so impacted by our reading, but thank you. Thank you so much. We talked at the beginning about how you're studying things and then you're still at the moment where you're going to learn how to, understand that puzzle. Do you feel like that with the universe at large as well, like understanding source and you know this law, you know this law, you know this law, but we don't fully understand the whole network, how it's wired together?
Yes. So this is something I've been kind of dealing with lately because, we're all on social media. A large part of me promoting my business is on social media. And I always see a lot of the times people saying things like, certain things are bad, right? It's bad for people to be billionaires when there are other people that are starving. It's bad for, maybe businesses to market their products in certain ways to get people to buy it when people might not have all the facts about what that means, what that product does, or what that product means, or where the funds are going, or who's getting paid what for making those products. All of these things, right? Capitalism. And I always think about it and I get mad at first. I'm like, yes, there shouldn't be billionaires when people are starving. That's not fair. But then I'm like, wait a minute. What if that person who is not eating chose this, and they did, chose this experience as a part of their journey? This is a part of their journey, right? There are so many people, and that sounds almost kind of like wrong or dirty to say. You can get canceled on social media for saying things like that, right? But it's true, right? I've been through some terrible things in my life that now I can see the purpose of those things. Now I'm able to help other people with those things. I'm able to counsel other people in those areas. I'm able to be a stronger person because of it. So I definitely do think that knowing all of that, it does kind of put you in a space where you understand that you never understand it all. You can never see the end goal of why something is happening to someone or why someone is doing something even, right? Because we all have our own perspective. But at that same kind of, with that same token, it can be hard not to use that to spiritual bypass, right? And it can be hard not to become apathetic and say like, oh, I don't care about anyone because everything's happening for a reason. No, of course, things are still terrible and people are still going through awful things and having awful things done to them. And it's okay to empathize and have sympathy for that and even to help in whatever way that you can. But what I have tried to kind of get across to people that I counsel is that that's okay. And even if it's yourself, it's okay to kind of be sad and say, man, this sucks that I'm going through this, but you also have to be able to see the other side, right? There's always the duality and understand this is happening for a purpose. Everything is happening for my highest good and the highest good of everyone involved, right? Understanding those things kind of puts, I found, at least in my own journey and the people that I've talked to, it puts things into perspective and it helps you not get into that victim mode of saying like, everything bad happens to me, or I'll never overcome capitalism, or we as a society will never overcome capitalism. It helps to kind of move past that and say, okay, what's next? Because we all have to move forward.
It's difficult because we're so into a system that has been developed over so many years, so many millenniums, and we're all thinking in the same way. And then those spiritual laws are like saying different ways. Mm-hmm. And we're still like so many layers that this could be misunderstood, and then we all get riled up. I'm into the fact that we shouldn't have rules and just think that we have our own authority, our own rules for ourselves, and then we shouldn't use the word should or shouldn't, and that's
Yeah,
it. And
I
then
very
you have
much
your
agree.
rules. Yeah. But yeah, it's very difficult when we think of, hunger and poverty and all of those things, like, oh, they chose this, then it creates a whole polemic, and then we could, stay there for a few hours, but let's not.
Yeah.
So I want to know about what is the role of, knowing your past lives or your ancestry or even your soul origin? Do you use them in your work?
Yes, so I have read past lives for myself. I've had some past life readings. I have a pretty good understanding of, well, I have so many past lives, I can't really have an understanding of all of them, but I have a good understanding of some themes in my past lives. And a few themes of my past lives are that, number one, I've done work like this before many, many times in past lives and have been either kind of ostracized, is that the word?
Ostracized? No?
Ostracized, there we go. I've been ostracized from communities that I've been in or from my family, and in some lives even killed for doing this kind of work that, now it's very much so more acceptable, but before it wasn't. So kind of understanding that has really helped me to understand even things as small as why some of my psychic abilities haven't turned on as quickly as others, or why I feel hesitant to, for a long time, I felt very hesitant to align my name, Katrina Stratford, with the Jove Goddess. And I kind of grappled with that for a really long time. And I was like, I need to have two separate social media accounts. I need to do this and that, because I wanted to be able to walk away at any point and say, oh, the Jove Goddess is done. I'm Katrina. And, learning that is because connecting myself too closely with this work in the past has been detrimental for me. And then I've also seen, and I have knowledge of past lives where I've worked in military service for years and years and years, and I've kind of gone up in the ranks in that area, and that really helps me, even just with stuff as small as like how I speak to people, how I see things, how I discipline maybe like children and things like that, and also how I prefer to be spoken to by authority, which is pretty much not at all. It really helps me with learning those things about myself for sure. As far as my soul origin, I'm so curious about that, but I can never find a definite answer. It's one of those things where I'm still like on the fence about, because I just haven't been able to find like a confirmation that feels like a confirmation. So I haven't really gotten too much into that, but the past lives definitely.
Thank you. What about your ancestors? Do you know of ancestors in your family who have done this work, maybe who have influenced you, or are they here now helping you when you're, helping others?
Yes. So I do. A lot of my ancestors on my dad's side are very, they didn't do this work, not as much as I know, but they're very much on kind of my helping team. In this lifetime, they're always like, we're helping you and we're doing this. And I ended up doing a reading months ago at this point where the girl that was doing the reading for me was like, your maternal grandmother who was a teacher, your paternal grandmother who was a teacher, she is pushing you to start teaching and start writing more. And since then, I kind of had been thinking about doing my classes and thinking about starting up my blog. And that was like the kind of push that I needed to say like, oh, okay, I have help. I can do this. On my maternal side, my grandfather actually was psychic. His psychic abilities were turned on, and unfortunately, people confused that for schizophrenia. And I think, at a certain point, it was probably a little bit of both. But yeah, definitely had some kind of pronounced abilities on that side as well. And I have the moon in the 8th house, which is a marker for having kind of those interests and abilities on the maternal side. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It sounds so exciting. I've never heard of a man who was a psychic. I mean, except online, but I've never, it's always, kind of a woman-based work, except the people we meet online. So have you had the chance to, to know him? Was he there when you were younger, or is he still there?
No, so the only memory that I have of him from a child is his funeral,
Okay.
unfortunately. So yeah, I don't know much about him. I'm always asking questions, and my grandma is always like, why are you asking me? Like, leave me. And I don't want to like push too hard because it's a sensitive topic, of course, but I'm always like, did he have any hobbies? Like, what was he doing? And what's going on. And I have a little bit of an inkling that my grandma might dabble in some of these things as well, but she doesn't say, which is, with older generations, a lot of times they won't say because, again, it wasn't as accepted, so they feel like it's like a secret. But she's very supportive in my work, like overly supportive, and she does little things that I'm like, okay.
Share your secrets with us.
I know. I'm always like, give me some tips, and she's like, I don't know what you're talking about, but look in that drawer over there, and you might find something. I'm like, okay.
That's so good. So what keeps you in line to grow? Like, do you have the human side that tries to put you back into the human, victim mentality and all those frequencies, or do you have a motivation that keeps you looking straight forward and continuing to grow as a conscious being?
I'm a Sagittarius, so I'm always like, learn, grow. Where's the information? Let me find it. Let me go have the experience. So I'm always that way. I will say that I do also have very much so the human side, and I think that's kind of, again, why like my business is so focused around finding that balance for yourself, is because I want to have that. Like, that for me comes more naturally than when I tried to force myself to like meditate 3 times a day for an hour and, cut out everything that I like to do. So for me, instead, I do a lot of kind of self-reflection on how I can merge the two. Like, okay, if I'm going to drink alcohol tonight, how do I, like, what is my protection ritual for before I go out and start drinking alcohol? Or what is my cleansing ritual for after I have a night of drinking alcohol? Or, whatever the case may be. For me, it's more of kind of finding that balance, but I have the push to do both. I'm a Sagittarius, so I'm like, I want both experiences. I just have to like more so motivate myself to find the middle ground, because I can get into kind of modes where I go to the extreme on either end, which doesn't really work for me.
I understand. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. So where are you going next? What is your next project, your next offering, or something that excites you in 2020?
So the thing that I'm working on now is a quiz, actually. And what it's about, I want to put this on my website because, number one, people love quizzes, but especially because the theme of this quiz is going to be finding your planetary guide for that, the moment that you're in when you take the quiz. And I wanted to make this because, number one, people aren't very knowledgeable just on an overall sense of what the planets actually mean, what kind of energy you can gain from the planets. So I wanted to make this quiz and make kind of additional resources after you figure out what your planetary guide is, to understand, okay, right now, based on what I'm going through, based on what's happening in my life, based on what I am seeing from myself energetically as a person in this moment, I'm being guided by Mars, we'll say. Mars is about action, Mars is about passion, motivation, the will. So the reason why, maybe I'm feeling stuck is because Mars is trying to push me to do that action. Or the reason why I feel like everything is out of control is because Saturn is my planetary guide right now, and I'm really supposed to be finding structure and stability in my life. So kind of breaking that down for people so that even if you don't understand really anything about astrology and you don't want to learn astrology, you can at least say, okay, Saturn's guiding me right now, and have almost like a lesson plan or a guide of how to work with that energy to get yourself moving, right?
So good. Is it based on transits, or is it based on how we're feeling, and then based on how people are feeling where they're at, then the planet comes in, selected by your
It's
knowing?
based on how you're feeling. So you don't even have to know your chart. You don't even have to know your date of birth, though most people do, or you don't have to know your time. You don't have to know any of that. You can just go into the quiz. It's going to ask you normal questions like, how do you interact with your bosses? How do you interact with your mom? How do you feel when you wake up in the morning? What is your connection to source? These types of questions that are just based on kind of how you're functioning in the world. And then that will lead you to the planetary guide, and you'll kind of get everything. Now, I would assume that it is going to line up with the transits that someone's experiencing in their chart, of course, but that's not a part of it. That's just kind of a bonus that people can look into.
Thank you. Thank you for providing new explorations, because we don't always know what to look for. We don't know what doesn't exist. And because you're bringing in, for example, sidereal astrology and all those things, we're discovering new things that we didn't know of. And then we get to, receive the knowledge. So thank you for doing this, because when we don't know, how are we ever going to know?
Yeah, exactly. We'll have to kind of pioneer and go out and see what's there for sure.
So where can we find you?
You can find me at jovegoddess.com, JoveGoddess.com. That's my website. Tons of resources there. There's a blog there. The quiz will be there live, hopefully by the time this podcast comes out. If not, a couple of weeks later. You can also find me on social media, Instagram and Twitter at KATRINASTRDFORD, Katrina Stratford. You can find me there as well.
We will put all the links, everything, so that people can find you. And thank you so much, Katrina, for your time and for your energy. Is there a last thing you would like to share, or maybe a blog that you want to, highlight or feature? Anything you want to say?
I actually have a YouTube channel as well that I missed. If you're going to catch up on my content, probably going there is going to be the best kind of starting point. So it's youtube.com/c/Jove Goddess. But I don't really have anything else to say. I'm so glad that, number one, you guys are listening and learning. And I'm so glad that this podcast exists. I think you're amazing. You taught me Reiki, so we'll always have that connection. And I'm just so grateful that we met almost about over a year ago now, right?
Yeah. Good
So
job. Yeah. Thank you so much for being. Thank you for listening up until this point. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you had a beautiful experience. Let me know in the comments, in the reviews, in my social media, and you can contact me, message me, and tell me how this experience of eyes closed has brought you peace, serenity, and discoveries. Come back each week. We have much more in store for you. Thank you. If you'd like to experience energy healing, energy hygiene, consider joining my premium on my website, where each Tuesday I'm holding a virtual circle and I'm giving energy healing according to different themes. This will change your life. It will bring you closer to truth, to resonance, to connection with yourself and with others. And if you're ready to jump, you can also learn energy healing, Reiki, with me each month just by subscribing and joining and registering to my next course. All the details are again down below in the show notes. Thank you so much. And if you enjoyed this moment, consider sending it to a friend. They might need it as well. Thank you so much.